Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in again this week. I'm so sorry. Me, Alex, and Aaron have been MIA, but I promise you we've been spending that time online designing robots and working on new shenanigans, so it's not been for nothing.
It's true.
So, anyhow, without further ado, we just are here to talk about our fights from the most recent episode in which Blip takes on Banshee and Tantrum takes on Whiplash in a double feature of the Seems Reasonable family. And it was sort of a mixed bag, to say the least. Um, why do you laugh, Alex?
It was a week, That yeah.
Which weeks
It was an
are?
episode. Yeah, it's just a lot of work and
Yeah.
just thinking back at where we were at in the season, it was definitely a stressful point. But yeah, that's how it goes. That's BattleBots. So
What about you, Aaron?
Uh, well, I remember there being uh, one. Also, we had a 1 and 2 robot and another 1 and 2 robot. So it was like, okay, this bracket's coming up. Where are we gonna be? Um, I was, I was to lead in with Blip versus Banshee. I was excited to not be going against a robot that could like obliterate us or hit us really, really hard.
Mhm.
Any flipper doesn't really do that. So, having come out of fights against Endgame, Huge, and Tantrum, it's like, okay, there's no spinning weapon on the opponent. Whew. Uh, downside is we got bold and we're like, oh, let's try this other stuff that means we might be able to flip higher. And bad idea. We still pulled off the win. If you want to dive to some of the pictures.
Yes.
So still pulled off the win against Banshee, and there was a lot of scooting around the arena, a lot of trying to get them onto the flipper, which plenty of people gripe about the fact the flipper's retracted back in terms of what Blip is more optimized for, and you got to get underneath the opponent anyway. But we were real stupid and put another thing between getting a good flip and and the robot getting there. So
Yeah, you heard it here first. Aaron said it on live, not live YouTube.
yeah.
Guys, this is like truly a moment in
oh,
history.
I'll say that all the time.
So what was the goal? What was the goal for
Yes.
this aluminum block of doom? Was it to
It's
protect the weapon? Was
it's
it
a
to
good name for it.
protect the
Yeah, we wanted to
weapon?
make sure our weapon was really safe from the other flipper. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, in this case, it was basically due to we did some tests at home and realized if the opponent robot isn't like contacting the tip of the flipper when the motion starts, we end up slapping like the flipper arm thwacks into the bottom of them, and that we're pretty sure causes our like clutch to slip back inside the robot, and that loses a lot of energy and they don't go nearly as high. So the concept here was basically make the front of the flipper more proud, such that when we're going underneath somebody, they're for sure sitting on the flipper. And then when you flip, it's a more efficient energy transfer and they should go higher. We got the shape wrong. Yeah. And that matches the result. But that was the theory. It also was one of those like probably wasn't quite the time to be mucking around with trying new random things when if I think if we lost this fight, we were not in the top 32. So that was definitely a risk to take, but going in against a rookie robot that definitely had their unfair share of gremlins. We managed to benefit in this one from their flipper having some issues and not firing. So our mistakes didn't bite us as much as they could have. So, but yeah, we pulled off the victory, and Blip is in the tourney.
It's all that
Count
counts.
it.
It's all that counts. Yeah, I mean, do you want to like what's the difference like between the like it's a flip off, right? So, we have our video explaining a bit about the flipper on Blip. What makes Banshee different than us?
Yeah, so the Banshee flipper setup is pneumatic. It's much closer to the Bronco and other I would say flippers of Lucky also runs it, but it's a lot more of a I would say classical design. He does do some higher pressure stuff. in terms of his pneumatic system set up a little differently, but it's a compressed air fire. That much air goes into a cylinder, launches the robot. So it's basically releasing a big spring under people when you fire. And then Blip is a whole lot of witchcraft happening inside and a flywheel spinning and just make everything a little more complicated for limited benefit and definitely some disadvantage too.
Okay.
But yeah. So how do you guys feel about Tantrum Whiplash?
You're trying to change the topic, eh?
Yeah.
Um,
It wasn't our best episode so, as a team.
I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
I
go
was-
ahead.
I think I was excited for it personally. I feel like we had a lot of really high pressure matches that did not go our way, and we were really excited to have everything tuned up. We got the self-rider working, we had fixed a lot of issues, and we were sort of like, I felt like we were maybe catching up, you know, we were like getting into the groove of things. And so, especially going against Whiplash, whose weapon mass is obviously not as large as other robots, you know, it was going to be a show of control, which Tantrum is really good at. It would be fun. It would be back and forth. We would be using our self-rider. So I thought it would be like actually a really good, well-matched fight. So obviously I was pretty disappointed when what happened. What about you, Alex? How did you feel going in?
I actually, yeah, the same. I was feeling pretty good about it. I mean, we worked our asses off this season to make sure that the robot was as good as it could be, given that we didn't show up with a robot that was as good as it could have been. Like we underestimated the time that some of the gremlins would take to sort out before the event. And so we showed up with something where we had to figure out those on the fly. And, you know, that's on us. It's one of those things where, you know, doing this as the reigning champ and against some of the best other team, like the best teams over and over again for our preseason. It's not the right time to be figuring that out, but here we are. I mean, there's a slide in there of us in the napping or in the you go to the slide before. We have hammocks in our tent, our pit, and it was actually like a rotation. It'd be like, all right, David, you know, it's it's your turn to work. I get to nap. So but going into this fight, we were feeling good. I also remember feeling good. David was feeling good. I actually remember Ginger, you telling me you went over with David to go look at Whiplash's robot and you're looking at the underside. What was it again?
I think it was like 1/8 inch aluminum or something.
Oh, the belly pan. Yeah, but what was David's comment?
He
Because we
wanted,
had just, yeah, we,
I don't remember, but I think
you
he
don't
was
remember?
really excited. He was
He was
looking
really
at all the
excited. David
robots.
goes over and he's just like, "Ooh, this belly pan looks so tasty," you know, after feeling good about us, you know, getting Hydra'd, you know, in the same way. And I actually think that we probably would have tore their belly if we got under them, similar to these other opponents that we've done. But alas, you know, that's not how it went. So I think, yeah, that was probably the biggest, you know, on the note of how we felt going in. Everyone knows like what happened, you know, in the fight, and it's probably the most disappointing fight for me from the entire season
Yeah.
because we were feeling good, and then we found another failure point that was entirely like fixable by us, right? And something that like it's not a 1 in a million shot, but it's not super likely to happen again. But we made sure it wouldn't happen again. But yeah, go ahead. Nah, like thoughts during the fight. So
Yeah. So, I mean, what pretty much had happened, and this is a really great picture, is we had backed up right into one of these. Well, what we think happened is that we had
no,
backed
so
up.
we thought at the time it was the spike, but it was actually the kill saws. So,
Oh,
or sorry, not the kill saw, the
screw?
screws. The
Yeah. Okay.
screws.
The
Yeah.
screws. I had backed right up into our chain. And I think it was the master link too, wasn't it? Or was it just the
I think it did. It might have been
random
the
chain
master link.
link?
I can't remember exactly,
Okay. I mean,
but
essentially what happened is we backed right into in an opportune place in the box, which then broke our self-rider chain. So ironically, all the issues we were having with our clutch and with our gearbox and with all, you know, our arms breaking off left and right, it was just this freaking piece of chain. It just fell off. It went bloop. And so when we took the robot out, everything was perfectly fine, and we just, put a new piece of chain on.
I think secretly it was Rob Masick under the screws with a screwdriver and just like, right
Yeah.
at the right time. And he was with Whiplash last year, so it's
Yeah.
That's probably right.
well
And
played,
the
Vasquez
best
family.
part is last year we had a bit of a similar thing happen with Lucky, actually, where we backed into a wall and then also broke our self-rider chain. And so we did a little welding at the event last year when we won. And so this year we were like, you know what, we're bringing it back. This is why our juju is off, is because we don't have the little random
jank.
welded metal.
Handcrafted.
Yeah. Yeah, so we took one of our shoulders and just cut the pieces that you see on there, the booty bump.
Yeah, you can see
So-
it's got a hole because it's a random piece of scrap.
Yeah. So, but
Sorry,
you do what you can at the event, and I think that what happened ultimately is that we tried to save too much weight
Yeah.
going into the design process, and it ended up being not protected, and that shot us in the foot real bad. But that's, again, that's how BattleBots goes. You learn from every failure mode, and you work on that. And like the
Mm.
self-rider is very complicated. We found a lot of failure modes on that this year.
Yep.
As evident by the Minotaur fight, it broke the second gearbox, because the self-rider is a motor into a gearbox into a clutch into a gearbox into a chain. And then that chain also, there's a few other points of rubber isolation in that stack up. And so there's a lot going on in here, and it takes some fine tuning. What you can see here is actually the punch clutch, which just operates the same similarly. But one of the failure modes that like we weren't expecting to see is actually if you run a clutch too much, you'll glass over on the style of clutch that we have. And so you have to take what you see there, the black shiny surface is supposed to be kind of like a porous, like fiber consistency. So you have to go and actually sand those down or replace them. And so that
Yeah, I
on
mean,
top
sorry,
of,
just to
yeah.
take like even a bigger step back, Alex, the way these clutches work is they're friction based. So if you are going at a certain torque, they'll transmit that rotational energy. But if you go too fast, or if you have too much torque or too much sort of momentum in a sense, you'll slip it. And what that helps us do is protect our critical components like our gearboxes and our motors from huge impacts, like when we fall backwards on our self-rider or when we punch something really hard. But if we're running them in the pits, or if we're stuck on something and we're just like running those two sort of friction, you can think of it almost like sandpapery pieces against each other, then that heat will cause them to sort of glass over and melt. And then they won't be able to transmit any more rotational torque. So then they'll just sort of be like two pieces of glass sliding against each other.
Yep. Yeah. And once everything is dialed in, it works great, like the self-rider. But the number of things that you have to get right is admittedly high. But again, once you have it dialed in, which we should have had going into the season, but we didn't, then everything's, great. We're still happy with the self-rider. So like, people might ask like, oh, are you gonna change it? And it's like, honestly, no. It's like what we need to change is our process and get some paperwork.
Wow.
Get some paperwork done ahead of time that shows like, hey, the clutch is supposed to be set to this torque. The inspect this thing after every match, etc. So there's a lot to it, and it's BattleBots. That's all I can say. I mean, we may be the reigning champ, but like we spent 3 years battling through these same issues. You just didn't hear about them because we weren't very good.
Yeah, this here is a funny photo I have of Alex too, where I think I believe you're setting the clutch in this photo.
For the punch clutch, yeah.
Yeah,
But one of the ways
to the bottom.
One of the ways we access them is we have holes in the belly pan that we've, very intentionally thought out. And
It is.
You say those are in there for that reason. They were put in there in the design process.
I know. And anyhow, we would basically just, Alex would have his little headlamp on under the table and he would twist it like, like a half of a third of a turn. And then we would go and test it and be like, oh yeah, this feels really good. No, that's too tight. Back it off a little bit. And like, "Rrr." And then like the whole time, like all of the gearbox teeth were actually just like broken.
Oh,
So, like,
yeah.
yeah. So anyhow, there's a lot of excitement in debugging that.
Yep. Yeah, it's a
All right.
complex robot.
So those 2 fights happened, and we're in the tourney.
In the tournament. Yeah.
We had like the short bit of being like, heck yeah, we're in the tourney, and then we see Sawblaze and Endgame. You're like, oh boy.
Yep.
It's
Hey, we have to be punished for our sins.
we have
Okay.
to atone.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
The producers were like, you know what? We're sick of you guys. Like, prove that you're worth it.
Yep. But as always, I honestly look at it as an honor.
Yeah.
Being put into as many, like to be in the top echelon of the combat robotics field is a amazing feeling. And just because we lose some matches doesn't mean that feeling then goes away, right? You get to fight the top robots in the world. So
My favorite thing about after seeing Blip versus Sawblaze for our first round of 32 was knowing that they had an entire day offsite planned to go have fun in Vegas. And then as soon as they saw that they were facing Blip round 1, they all came in and spent an entire day just sharpening things. And I'm like, all right, that's the level of respect. You could stop. Those are really sharp.
They have an extremely intricate fork sharpening setup, to be
They
fair.
do.
It's very impressive.
Yep.
But we're at least we were definitely getting shown in that respect. But
Yeah.
so
And I think
tune
actually
in next week to see what happens on that one.
I mean, to
Yeah.
be fair, Aaron, once you found out you were fighting Sawblaze, you also spent a whole day at the CNC mill designing a completely new front end, which is sort of like, your 2022 bag of tricks, which is like new front end.
Yeah.
What's
Yep.
best
Yeah.
here? We don't have it. Okay, where's some metal? Okay, CAD some things.
Yeah.
And a good way to get in people's heads. Before you have a match with them, just stand in front of a CNC machine for 10 hours straight.
Oh my God, the
And
best
don't
part.
have them able to see what you're doing.
No,
Because we found them back at their pit sketching out what they thought the part was.
because you could see on the CNC mill the preview of the G code toolpath. And so they were looking at the toolpath in their mind, committing it to memory, and then going back to the Sawblaze pit and trying to draw what the toolpath looked like so they could see what parts Aaron was making for their first fight. Which is that's a strong dedication to the sport, which I admire.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm friends with them. They're awesome people.
Yep. Yeah, and then we get
So.
to fight Endgame again. I think both us and Endgame were a little disappointed at this. It's just like, fuck. Like, we fought like how many fights ago was it? I mean, the last fight it was of the Golden Bolt for us. So yeah, we fought them like 5 matches ago. So here we are again. And then knowing that we also have the Golden Bolt at the end of the week, where it's like there's a decent likelihood of us fighting them again.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's okay, champ versus champ. So it's a good story.
It's just one that tends to hurt and have a lot of broken stuff too.
Okay.
Happily, it's at least broken
third
stuff on
time's
both sides. Just
Yeah. Third time's the charm though, right?
I thought it was like 7th or something. I don't know. I'm bad
It's
at phrasing.
our third time fighting him. So, but yeah, it's glad that we made it to the tournament. Glad that I don't know. It's good. It's still fun. And then we get to fight Endgame next week or tomorrow or whenever it airs.
Yep. So that's sort of where we are now. We'll come back next week and talk about how things went, or possibly the week after with Blip as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much to our sponsors, including SolidWorks, Norwalk, Havoc, Robotics, which we were all at just a few months ago.
The next event is this weekend, actually. So
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
May 6th, tune in.
Online on Twitch, they're everywhere. ETE, Manufacturing, Blue River, Matician, Van Beber, Send Cut Send, West Coast Products, and Lazy Gecko. And also make sure to shop. We just added pins and a bunch of other stuff to our shop. So if you go to
Oh, do you have
Susie's-
yours, Aaron? Do you have your pin? I don't
Not
know where mine
immediately
are.
on
I
me.
looked for it the other day.
I got one.
they're
So
super
the
cute.
pins are super cool. Bunny Soriel from Malice designed them. I always have to shout her out. She thought she had this idea that she wanted to do for a flipper robot and for Tantrum, a sliding robot. So the pins, hopefully Aaron will show in a second.
I got 100 sec.
Yeah.
So here's the Blip one.
So the Blip one has a spring, so you can actually flip it. It's pretty cool.
Show the back, Aaron. It's a pin.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. There's a spring on
Double attachment, so it's not gonna spin on you.
Yep. And then we also have the Tantrum pin that has a little slider. So that's a little puncher. It's so great.
So
So
if you
those
want
are all
more realistic, you can just leave this here and never move it because it probably broke, but whatever. But
Aaron
yeah,
Hill.
so the pin goes through the back as well. But yeah, you'll see us. A lot of us are still wear these for most of the matches at this point.
Indeed.
but we're selling them. They're on our shop finally. It took us a while, but we got them up there. So check those out at seemsreasonable.shop. Also, we have some eBay listings running right now. We have some stuff planned for the next few weeks. But check it out. As always, we have some super cool stuff up there, like the little baby fists, wheels, etc. So check it out at the URL listed here. You can also just type in Tantrum
Yeah.
BattleBots on eBay and find it.
Or follow
But-
us on Facebook, Instagram, etc. All the money that we make from this goes right back into robots, maybe more than one robots, multiple robots. So yeah.
yeah. So thanks for tuning in.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Y'all.